Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan. This is Auto Detour, and today I'm going to just be updating you on some of the small things I've been working on to get the project wrapped up. We're not quite ready to fire it up yet, but we're getting very, very close. As I mentioned in the last video, if you haven't watched it yet, I'll put a link to it up here in the corner. Basically, we had to redo the map, the whole map situation. We had to move the map sensor, get a different map sensor. We're having to move the blow-off valve, block off the existing blow-off valve port, and I'll show you that here in just a second because I've had a few parts come in since I made the last video. Let's jump right into it. One of the things that I've been working on since the last video was getting the battery back in. So I have this rag here to keep it from contacting, but so to get this battery tray back in here, and I'll put this here so it doesn't contact, but as you can see, we got the battery back in, and on the back there's this like vacuum reservoir. So getting the tray in with that vacuum reservoir after having all the piping in and everything was really a pain in the butt. Does not look like I'm going to be able to fit the factory cover back over the battery. I'll try again, but it's just too tight right down in here. We got clamps for the wastegate that are in the way. I'm not sure if you can see that down there. And if you didn't know, I had to pull the AC lines up above the fender rather than running down below the inner fender inside the fender well to clear the downpipe. So I just don't think I'm gonna be able to put this back in, which is fine, I guess. I mean, it would have been nice to kind of keep that stock look. Maybe something I could do is just cut off the front of this thing so it still covers the battery, has that stock look. I don't know, we'll see. Let me know what you guys think. Do you want to see this stock battery cover back on there to kind of maintain some of that factory look, or is it probably just not even worth my time? I don't know. I go back and forth because I like keeping everything that was stock looking, so it just keeps it kind of clean in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think. So as you can see, I got the wastegate dump back in here. It's not tight yet. I'm still sorting this AC line here. Not a big issue. It's just a matter of getting cables arranged in the right way. But in order to pull it back far enough to plug into the AC line here, see this end here has to line up with this guy right here. And as you can see, we just have a bunch of conflicting hoses down here. This hose wants to hit that band clamp. I'm toying with the idea of just flipping this around backwards so that it's coming out the front, and then it kind of takes up some of the slack to run back and plug back in. Got plenty of slack down here to do that. So we'll see. That might be an option. I'm trying to get as many of the AC lines away from the hot piping down here, just so you don't burst one. After I get that figured out, I'll update you guys on that. Moving over here, so one of the biggest differences that I'm most excited about is the new air filter setup. Now, this is the intake pipe that came with the kit. They had the MAF sensor on the end of that, and then the air filter on the end of that. If you look on CX Racing's website, they actually have the air filter going down here below the brake reservoir, which is just so close to the header down there. And I don't know why you would aim it down that way. Since we got rid of the MAF, we went ahead and ordered a 45-degree silicone coupler. This thing's about 3 inches long, but a 4-inch diameter joiner pipe, and then a new 9-inch K&N filter. It just lines up perfect. I'm really excited about how that turned out. So it's really clean, runs this line across the front, comes down here, actually bends down a little bit, then runs the air filter over into the stock airbox location, and it looks like it's meant to be that way. So I'm really excited about that. Really clean look. Now all I have to do is I'm gonna have to build some sort of bracket to support this end of the intake, because you can see it's just resting on the plastic here, and it's kind of just hanging on the mount of that one silicone coupler over there. So we'll get that hard mounted, come up with some sort of mount to mount this guy so it doesn't keep flopping around, and eventually with the weight hanging here, it'll probably rip that silicone boot eventually. Moving on to the block off plate, I received the block off plate for that blow off valve port. It is right here. Came with this nicely machined aluminum block off plate. Came with this O-ring here. It's not thick enough, so you can kind of compare it. This is the O-ring off the blow off valve, and this is the O-ring off the block off plate. It's too thin, it doesn't seal on there. It came with this really cheap looking band clamp, V-band clamp. So I think what I'm gonna do, instead of using that, getting rid of some of the bulk up here, when we go ahead and weld the new blow off valve port on down low down there, I'll probably just go ahead and weld this block off plate to the blow off valve port. And if you missed what the plan was for that in the last video, the plan is to drill a hole in the center of this block off plate to mount the idle air control port right here. So we'll either drill and tap for these threads, or drill a hole and aluminum weld that into the center of the block off plate so that we have a port for the idle air control. And to be honest, I didn't want to redo the whole top end of here just to get rid of that blow off valve port. If you remember, I had to plug the big port on the back of the intake manifold for the PCV system, and I had to buy a whole bag of these things, but these huge vacuum caps, I think they're 18 millimeter. Put it on the back there, see if I can stuff the camera in there so you can see it. So there it was on the back there, and as you could see, I got my hose clamp on there to tighten it up so that it seals up on that back port. Like I said, it fit okay, it just wasn't as tight as I would have liked it, so I went ahead and put a hose clamp on it just to make sure it seals up really well. As you can see over here, the gas tank is still not in. I'm not going to bore you guys with installing the gas tank, but the fuel pump fuel sending unit is in. I did haul it outside and drain the rest of the 91 octane out of it to fill with 93 and to make it lighter so I can put it back in more easily. So that shouldn't be a big deal. We'll get that just put back up into place. And there was about 5 gallons of gas left back in there. I thought there was only a couple. That would explain why I had an issue pulling it out and dropped it on the ground. So let's talk a little bit about what we have left. So the big one is I got to pull the oil pan to put the drain line. I got to tap the drain line into the oil pan down low. See if I can show you where that's going to go. We're going to pull the oil pan. We're going to drill a hole right about here. Not in the center, but I'm thinking right over here. Should be above oil level, and get that oil drain put in there. I've never pulled the oil pan off this truck, so I'm thinking it shouldn't be that difficult. So it looks like I may just have to pull this cross member out and drop the oil pan. Looks like it should clear the front axle. So anyway, I plan on shooting another video this week of pulling the oil pan and tapping that in, because I feel like that's a pretty vital part to show you guys, because that's a big part of the kit and how the oil drain goes together, and it's something that they don't show or explain super well on the website, so big surprise there, right? So while we're down here, here's the charge pipe that the blow-off valve is going to go in. It's going to go right in this pipe somewhere, because this is where it exits from the intercooler and goes up to the intake. So I'm thinking it's going to go right up here, right before the coupler. So that's where that's going to go. So I just ordered my setup for the wideband boost gauge, and I'm actually going to be putting a boost controller on it, and in this case it's all in one. I'll show you that when it shows up in the next video. I'll probably throw that in with the oil pan video. But we got to get that hooked up. That's gonna help protect the engine, because it has settings. You can set safety cutoffs with this new setup. So using a boost controller, we can make sure we don't overboost, we don't run too lean. You can set lean settings. Just a great way to protect the motor as long as we get it set up right. All right, so let's hop inside the truck. I haven't really shown much of the inside of the truck at all, because obviously all the attention's been going under the hood. Pretty basic interior, cloth, gray interior. It's got the leather wrapped steering wheel, But the reason I want to come in here is I want to get your guys' thoughts on something. So as you guys know, I'm taking great pride in making sure this remains a sleeper build and doesn't look too ridiculous. So the question is, where am I going to put the gauge? To me, obviously there's places all over the place where you can find pillar pods. I'm not really interested in pillar pods because to me it just advertises that the truck is modified. I want to get your guys' thoughts. Leave a comment down below where you guys think the best place to put a gauge in this thing. I'm kind of thinking there's some space behind this panel here. You can easily pull this panel off, and I could drill a hole in this panel here and put the gauge right in there. I think that might look pretty good, possibly on this side as well. If I put it up high enough, I can still see it over the steering wheel without any trouble because of the way the steering wheel is shaped. I don't want to go too crazy. I mean, another option would be to figure out how to squeeze it in there. I'm not sure there's enough room, but I still want to be able to see it so I can monitor the EGRs. So maybe something right over here, tucked into the side of the gauge cluster. I'm not a huge fan of the Mickey Mouse ears. In this case, it would just be one kind of over to the side because it kind of sticks up in the way of the gauges. And again, it's kind of obvious that your truck is modified with it up there. That's kind of what I'm thinking with that. Be interested to hear your guys' input. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. Just kind of wrapping up some small things, getting pieces back in. I apologize we didn't get a whole lot accomplished. I just kind of wanted to do an update video so you guys weren't left hanging. Obviously, I squeeze things in whenever I can during the week as far as getting things done on the truck. So I appreciate your guys' patience with getting this done. I guarantee you that I want to see this thing fire up really badly as well. So if you guys are enjoying this Grandpa Truck Turbo Build video series, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. And if there's anything on the truck that I have not covered yet, be sure to leave a comment down below on things you want to see, and I can try to include them in future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day. I'll talk to you next time.